So with this week's episode of Dororo, we get introduced to a very interesting cycle of life, and I have to say, for as weird as this episode kind of was, I really was intrigued by it, and I would have to say it's probably one of the most interesting episodes of the series up till now. Last week we had a really beautiful romance between our main character as well as this other girl who would have been amazing to see her live, but sadly the fate of war kind of caught up to her. This week we get a sort of romance between a ghoul and just an average everyday Joe trying to help his fellow men just escape from a shitty lifestyle. It was interesting how well they managed to make this sort of weird love story work out. And the first little scene that we get introduced to in this episode was really well directed. I love the idea that it would be amazing to hear Hikamaru laugh. And you start hearing the laughter, and then you think, oh, okay, what's going on? Because they're framing it as if it is our character laughing, and then it's no, it has to be someone, getting down with some naughty fun, and then you get the reveal that it's actually a ghoul sucking the life out of a poor human. Just the way they direct that in just a few seconds, it was really nice, because you have the conversation about wanting to hear him laugh, then you're hearing laughter, and you're starting to think, was that actually him? Is he, mocking Dororo? What's going on here? And then, no, it has to be some naughty fun, to then the reveal that it's a ghoul. Brilliantly executed. And I love how, because the visual directing is so spot on, we get simple moments like this. It's not just it's disposable and just once in a while we get amazing directing to match up with the script. No, it's every scene, the visuals really do match what's going on in the writing, and I really appreciate that attention to detail. And the action between the spider was amazing because it looks so damn disturbing. We've seen some pretty creepy ghouls and monsters and demons and everything else that you can imagine in this series, but to have such a humanoid head attached to a full-on spider body, that shit's straight out of nightmares, and it was creepy how human and ghoulish it actually looked, and it rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, this shit's creepy and I want this girl to die. But then as the episode gets going and you're starting to see how she clearly has this very interesting view on life and how it slowly starts opening up on the idea that every life is precious. You see this guy, he's not killing cockroaches, and I was kind of interested where it was going, because I was really buying into the fact that she was killing humans to suck out their life force. So when the reveal came that she never actually kills the human, she keeps them alive so the cycle can go on and on, how they can be an endless supply of energy for her, because what good is it to just suck them dry, suck them to the point that they can revive themselves and then kind of carry on. It's kind of a messed up concept, but it's better than the food chain just being her killing humans. So it's kind of okay, everything's starting to click a lot more, because I like the idea how you have this human who's basically spending his nights helping people escape from this shitty kingdom. And then you have this girl who kind of keeps trying to suck this guy's life force, but because he's so nice and the fact that he's willing to go hungry so she can eat, she doesn't do it. And there's so many nice little moments that as this episode kind of builds up, you kind of get on board with this weird love story. It's kind of weird, but at the same time you think, you know what, because she's not killing anyone and the fact that this guy's a genuine good guy, you can understand why our main character would let her go, because she's not doing anything overly wrong. And you kind of think, well, maybe these two lovebirds, maybe they can have a happy tomorrow. I do like this episode a lot. I think maybe an extra 5 minutes to just flesh out this kind of spider ghoul and this guy's kind of relationship would have been preferable, but I think they managed to get this little story across in one episode, which is something overall the time constraints to the show has been doing really well. They're able to build these very entertaining stories that sometimes need a couple episodes, and sometimes, even if you would like to see it be a bit longer, one episode is enough to get these messages across. And this was a very compelling episode of Dororo, because you have, coming off of such a horrible and heartbreaking romance, to kind of see a different romance kind of get a better tomorrow than the last, it's nice. Of course, I would rather it be flipped. I'd rather our main character be able to have a love life rather than this spider ghoul, but it's a nice way to ease our heart back into the series, showing us that not everything does have to be dark and gloomy in a time of war. There can be a couple of glimmers of hopes off and on, and this episode was very charming, for as creepy as it was, because that design, it rubbed me the wrong way, and I'm glad that we saw her for the most part in this episode as a human body, and just the build up over this episode was really good, because it was very clear that it wasn't the spider's doing of all these people disappearing. It was clear someone was helping them escape, but I was kind of thinking to myself, well, no one's helping them escape. It's probably just a joint effort of one person goes at a time so they all can escape. As the bounty goes up, they'll think it's some monster or some kidnapper kidnap her out there, but really it's just people trying to get a better life, and because we're focusing on this character, so around the halfway point, most of it kind of clicked 2 and 2 of what was going on. So when the actual reveal came and how the whole cycle of life works between both of them, I was really on board with this ghoul living, because even when she was attacking these soldiers for what she just did to this guy, you know, shooting him with arrows because he was helping people escape, she never went the full route of being full-on evil. Yeah, she was hurting them and attacking them, but she never did the finishing blows. So I like how you start this episode off with Dororo contemplating, is Hikamaru basically a monster? Has he released from the cave, and is he just someone who won't be able to be controlled? We end the episode with him letting the ghoul go, not killing the ghoul, because he has hearing, because he has more and more senses. He can sense that this ghoul doesn't need to be put down, and that it is more than just a red blob from his vision, and it's only because he had those senses. You start off worrying that, is he just a beast on the loose, or is he becoming more human? And for the first time, as he's growing more human with these senses, you truly believe he made the right call and he didn't make a mistake, and that's what we need to see. Even if you weren't on board with this whole love story between this kind of spider and guy, it really served a purpose to show us that our main character, even though we don't truly know what's happening to him as he gets more human, he made a human decision in that moment, and it really reinforces that he isn't too far gone, like at the end of last week's episode where he did lose it and almost did something that he would regret. This episode was really well done. It's not going to be, I don't think, anyone's favorite episode of the season, but it served a lot of interesting purpose. The directing was spot on, kicking us off with such amazing visual directing and comedy. We end the episode with our main characters just doing a bit of a chuckle because he's making fun of poor little Dororo. I love it so much. It was just peaceful in a lot of ways, which we don't get to say in this series enough of coming out of an episode saying, that was peaceful, that was comforting, and hey, we even got to see some development on a personal level for our characters, while also seeing some pretty interesting side characters. Sure, this guy, he wasn't overly fleshed out, he was just that guy helping others escape, and he fell in love with a spider ghoul. However, because of her relationship with this guy and the idea of her not wanting to take life, but just use life to support her own while not ruining the others, and seeing how he kind of views insects and animals and everything in this world the same, you kind of got to understand them on a personal enough level that you backed what they were doing, and I got on board with this weird love story, so it was definitely better than any Twilight love story that people like to rave on and on about. The music, though, in this episode was really well done. I love how it sounded like this kind of slice of life, old Japanese folklore tracks that was just very interesting to listen to. Like, in the middle of hunting a giant spider, they never really made the music, except in the end stages, that in your face. It was very comforting. It was very, like, you would use that as background music for a video. It was amazing, and the sound effect designs was just spot on. Like, the audio direction, when this series wants to, it's not always in your face and overly impressive, but 9 times out of 10, I really think the audio design is going above and beyond to match the visual directing, to match the script, and that's why this project is so breathtaking. I like this episode a lot. I'm gonna be curious to see how many people like this one or hate this one, whatever they're feeling, because this episode, coming off of such a heartbreaking episode, to be able to ease into something a bit more cheerful, a bit more hopeful, and actually see a more positive resolution. Of course, in the times of war, you want it to feel like no one is safe, and I like the fact that our character who fell in love with someone didn't have a happy resolution, because if you are going to play two sides of a war, shit's going to bite you in the ass. So it makes it feel like this is actually a time of war. This isn't some battle shonen where they say the universe is at stake, but really no one's going to die by the time it wraps up. No, people can and will die. And I like how when we see these weird stories like this, you truly believe, well, this guy has to die or the ghoul has to die, but then once in a while they surprise you and say, no, they're both going to be alright for the time being. That's something that's important. It's fun to be dark, it's fun to be gloomy, but to give that very small sense of hope that there could be a better tomorrow, that makes you buy into what's happening a lot better. It makes the tone feel a bit more balanced out and feel like we're not just going to keep killing for the sake of killing, but rather there is actually going to be substance and development, and things can be unexpected, so when you think one thing's going to happen, a completely different thing will happen. Overall, I was really impressed with this week. Like I said, it's not going to be my favorite episode of the season, but it is one of the most unexpected and interesting episodes of this season. I loved everything about it, from the dialogue. There's a couple of moments that made me chuckle. I love how, as our characters are getting more and more human, their relationship is opening up in interesting ways, so we're getting these little moments like chuckles or goofing off that we didn't get to see in the early stages, so it's fun to finally get to see that. in the later stages of this anime. It was a really good episode, directing on point, audio directing on point, character dialogue on point, and somehow they took the most creepy and disturbing monster that I started off the episode with, seeing this humanoid face attached to a spider that I thought we gotta put it down, to then transitioning to me being like, you know what, maybe this girl can live. She's still creepy, she's still, I wouldn't want to cross paths with her, but she doesn't seem that harmful like at the start of the anime. It was a really interesting episode to say the least. I don't think I've been more confused with how I felt with an episode of Dororo than this week's episode, but it was very fun. I'm glad it happened. It was a nice way to ease us back in after such a heartbreaking episode. I'm hopeful that there will be a couple more episodes like this down the line, just to surprise us with what this series can truly do. Let me know, though, whatever you thought of this week's episode of Dororo. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What did you think of this weird love story? Were you on board with it? Or was it a little too off-putting for you? Let me know whatever you're feeling down in that comment section below. And be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and also hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. But until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.